So we're gonna get started. Please feel free to keep coming in, and also we'll keep filing in as the workshop's happening, and that's totally cool. So I'm Ellen. I'm the Community Programs Director for the Fringe. This is our lovely panel. I'm gonna sit down now. Basically, I'm about to give a lot of information. Thankfully, this information should all be in your inboxes in our participant emails. Has everybody been receiving like our newsletters?
Yeah.
Has everybody registered for the Fringe?
Yeah.
Okay, if you've registered for the Fringe, you should be automatically getting our participant emails. But don't worry, this happens sometimes. You are going to want to make sure that it's not going to your spam folder or your promotions folder. And the best way to do that is to search in your inbox info@hollywoodfringe.org. And I bet you a bunch of our emails are going to pop up. Add us to your contacts, and then you'll be getting our emails, no problem. And then if you still have a problem, we have an amazing system called support@hollywoodfringe.org, and support will answer all of your questions about that and more. And really, that's going to be a great resource for you if you're having any issues with anything on the Fringe end, or if you just have any general questions that you need answered. Support@hollywoodfringe.org. More announcements. Thank you to the LA LGBT Center for letting us host, and thank you, Matt, so much, Matt Richter, if he's running around somewhere helping us. Oh yeah, helping us get all set up, and it looks amazing in here. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much to our staff that's here. We have Beaver filming over there. Yay. Hey, Beaver. For those of you at home, hi. We have Matt Kamimura, who's taking photos for us. Yay. And our wonderful Alex Crum, who helps put all of this together, our event coordinator. Yay. We also have two amazing volunteers that are working with us. We have John and Lauren, and they're outside. They're amazing. After this, we're going to have a mixer at the Broadwater Plunge from 10 to midnight, and 20% of all sales during that time will go back to the Fringe, so it's literally going right back to you guys, which is awesome. So come have a drink with us, and it's a great way to ask any like direct questions that you might have that might pertain only to you. Today's panel is going to kind of work where we're going to have about an hour 15 minutes of conversation, and then 45 minutes worth of questions from the audience, but or probably less than that now that we're starting a little bit late. But try and make that anything that would pertain to the full room, and then anything that's more specific to your show or your needs, I would be happy to talk to you about it after the workshop, and I'm sure others would be welcome to answering those questions as well. I'm going to be looking at my phone for my agenda most of the time, so I'm not ignoring you guys. We have these upcoming events. Let's see if I can say it without messing it all up. We have Town Hall number 2, hosted by Festival Director Ben Hill, and that's focused on marketing. That'll be Sunday, April 14th from 2:30 to 4:30 at the Hudson Theaters. Don't have to write all this down. It'll be coming to you in an email. I'm just going to say it really quickly, so that those of you at home can fast forward and rewind, and hear it all. Stacey Jones-Hill will be hosting our next workshop with some panelists kind of like this, and that will be about like festival expectations, what to expect in this type of environment, as well as some more marketing, publicity it kind of covers it all at that point. And that is workshop number 3, and that's Saturday, April 20th from 2 to 4 at the Complex Hollywood. We have Town Hall number 3 with Ben Hill, which is about ticketing and festival prep, which is Sunday, May 5th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Broadwater. And then workshop 4, which is hosted by our staff sound and lighting designers, will be how to tech your Fringe show. So if you're like, I don't know what to do, I'm freaking out. First of all, we record all of these. They're all online from last year. So if you want to do some research and jump ahead, you can totally look at last year. And then this is a really great resource, this panel, which will be happening on May 11th. It's a great resource for you to kind of like see where you're at as far as your technical stuff. If this is your first time teching a show, it's a great panel to watch. We have Twitter chats that are coming up on Monday nights and Saturday afternoons. Schedule's online. Our office hours begin not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, and then they last every Wednesday until the Fringe. And they're so much fun. There are different bars all around Hollywood. Again, they're in those schedules online. It's also in your participant emails. And they last from 7 to 10 at different bars. We jump every week, except for the last 5 of ours this year are all at the same bar, and they're amazing. Black Hollywood. Okay, registration deadline is April 1st. The deadline and that's the deadline to have your info to go into the printed guide. Obviously, things can be edited for the online version, but as far as your printed guide, that's April 1st is the deadline to be submitted. And April 15th is the deadline to buy and add in the guide, although they're on sale now. And now I'm going to stop talking and introduce these really wonderful people. Can I have you guys say who you are? What you've done? Are you doing Fringe this year? And then if you like really want to challenge yourself, why Fringe?
Why Fringe? It's a pretty deep question. I am Bert Grinstead. I produced a couple shows at Fringe. 3 years ago, I produced Fool for Love, and I just did it with a friend of mine, and we just did it for the sake of doing it, and because I've always wanted to do that show. And then last year, my fiance and I put together a comedy version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that ended up doing very well for us. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do Fringe this year because we are going off Broadway to do it. At the Soho Playhouse in New York. So that's going to be really great. So that's my history with Fringe. And why Fringe? I think Fringe for me was a chance to do something that I've always wanted to do, and to perform in something that I've always wanted to perform, and to write something that I've always wanted to write, and have a community that's not only supportive of it, but they encourage it, and they really want you to succeed. And I think that's this is a really cool environment for that.
I'm Monica Miklas. I am the co-founder of a theater company called Capital W. We do immersive and intimate theater. We've done Fringe twice with that company, and then I did Fringe, I think, 6 times with a comedy ensemble called Lost Moon Radio, 5 or 6 times, something like that. So I've been around since the beginning. I'm not producing a show this year, taking a year off from producing, which I'm really excited about, because that means I actually get to see shows for a change. But I am going to be in a Fringe show called Giselle and Aerial Ballet. It's going to be at the Assistants League Playhouse. And why Fringe? Gosh, why not Fringe?
Right.
I love it. It's the orienting point for my whole year. It's filled different roles in my life at different points in time, but now it just feels like home.
I'm Natasha Lewin. In 2017, I won the Diversity Scholarship. Monica was my mentor, and it was amazing. And so I'm going to skip ahead to why Fringe, because you meet people like Monica who are so supportive and really bring out the best in you, and I couldn't have done what I did without Monica.
It was a
Thank you.
mutually beneficial relationship. That Fringe was super awesome for me too.
Yeah, you meet amazing people. So and everyone's so supportive of what it is that you're doing, what it is you're saying. You can really be yourself. I can't be more thankful for that opportunity. So my play was called Chatter. It went very well. The next year I decided to give back to Fringe, so I now sponsor an award. It's called the Fight the Power Award. For shows that move the needle, that are forward thinking. And I'm also on the Diversity Scholarship Committee, and my mentee is right here, it's Jennifer. Hey. Make sure to see her show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm Roy Shockley. I did Fringe for the first time last year with my show called The Color Collective. It went well, we got extended, got to do an encore, and now have been performing the show every month at the complex. So that's been great. It's like, wait, people will pay money for this. Okay, let's not do this anymore for free. So that was definitely a great experience. We're bringing the show back again this year. All new show, trying to do it bigger and better. For me, the why Fringe would be really just the experience of it all. You get to meet a lot of great people, because I remember just going to every single instance of office hours last year. My liver probably didn't appreciate it, but I made a lot of friends, so it worked. And there's just so much you can get out of it, just from the standpoint of, learning how to put on a show and everything that really goes into it, as well as, even just kind of like, proving to yourself that, okay, yeah, this is a lot of work, but I know I can do this and I have support. And there are plenty of people to ask questions of and people that have been there before. So that's why this year I wanted to, like you, kind of put myself in a position to be able to help and give back. Like, I'm happy I was asked to be on this panel. I'm a mentor for the first time this year. So I'm looking forward to that experience.
Awesome. Does everyone in here have a venue? Can you raise your hand if you have a venue already for your show? You raise your hand if you do not. Don't be shy if you do not. Okay. Do you mind if we kind of quickly glaze over a couple points? I know a few venues are in here. You guys can maybe, you guys want to say something really quick about, or do you want us to just go?
Sure.
Great.
Can you just say the venues that are here?
Yeah. So the lounge over there.
Okay.
Amber.
We have availability. A lot of good slots.
And we have the complex over here with Monica.
The Complex Hollywood, we also have time slots available.
And Macklin.
Matthew Quinn, I run the Asylum. We have 9 different venues and slots available.
And Matt Richter up there.
Hi, I'm Adam in the booth. You're in our venue. We have a couple slots available as well, but I highly recommend everyone who's already spoken because they're all great venues.
Yay!
And we've had so many more. When looking for a venue, and we'll just kind of go through this really quickly, how do you look, like, what's a quick tip of how you found your venue? Like, were you looking for something really specific and then you were able to find it through maybe our website? Was it by looking at one of our past workshops or videos, which are all online if you're searching, that kind of thing?
Are we just going down the line?
Yeah.
Rock and roll. I actually lucked out because I have a relationship with the LGBT Center right here, and because I had done about 3 shows with them in the past as an actor, and really worked with John. I actually produced Fool for Love with John a couple years ago here, and that was cool and a lot of fun. And then last year, John and Matt put out to, like, friends of the family, friends of Fringe, an email saying, like, we're gonna be a host for Fringe shows, and my fiance and I saw it as an opportunity to jump on board, so we jumped on that way. So I kind of had a secret way in, but I know that afterwards and seeing the Fringe website, they have, like, you can get there's all the venues are listed there. It's so easy to access them.
Yeah, in my first few years at Fringe, when I was working with the comedy group, we needed a big capacity space, and so that usually led our decision making. We needed a space that was big enough. Then with Capital W, and we've done 3 shows. I forgot the massive one that we did last summer, which almost destroyed my brain. Those, we brought our own venue for all of those because they were site specific. So one was in a van, one was kind of guerrilla, and you would walk around or you would go to a bar, but we didn't publish where the bar was or which bar it would be, and it changed over the course of the month. And then last year we started at Thymele Arts and then took people in another van and then ended up at my house, which is in Boyle Heights. So we had to drive people back so that it technically began and ended in the Fringe zone. So is anybody thinking about doing immersive work? Immersive? Cool, then we don't have to talk about immersive.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well,
There's
for the
options.
people at home. Yeah, so bringing your own venue is an option. And I think the biggest guiding factor is size, the size space that's going to suit you. Because most of the theaters at this point that do Fringe and have done it for a number of years, they're all really well run. These people are all pros. So I go to audience size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with Monica, and I lucked out as well. When I won the scholarship in 2017, they kind of gave us who to work with, so was very lucky and got with Matt, and him and his wife were very, very instrumental and helpful in me being able to find a venue. But for me, it was size. I wanted to push myself enough where, it wasn't something with 10 seats, but it was like, I know I can probably fill this. I could add more seats if necessary. I really wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone. I looked at some theaters that had a lot of seats, and I was like, that's really out of my comfort zone, but let me go somewhere where, I think it was 50 seats that we had, 50 seats, and we added seats. We actually sold out every show, so we had to add seats, and it was very easy to do so. It was definitely audience size and pushing myself beyond my comfort level enough that I felt good about what I was doing.
Yeah, I would agree that, audience size definitely plays a part. And the size of your show. Because, if you have a very small one, then, okay, you have a ton of options. But, if you have 15, 20 people in the cast and have a lot of costumes and all that, that's going to play a huge part in where you choose for your venue. Last year, I got very lucky because again, like Bert, I have a relationship with the theater that we ended up choosing the complex. Monica does a great job of running that theater. They're very supportive and helpful. So I definitely recommend them. Shameless plug. And because we were already used to performing within the complex from the comedy theater that I started at, so was already familiar and new. So a lot of times familiarity plays a big part as well. Usually through Fringe, the meetings that we have at town halls, they all go from place to place. So you kind of get to see the venues for yourself at those times. And a lot of them have open houses. You just give them a call and take a look and see if it feels right for you. That's really the best thing that you can do.
And just to jump on that too, what you said, what Royce said with the big cast was backstage. We had 7 ladies in our cast, and we needed a big backstage, so that's another.
And we have a whole panel all about tips and tricks from the venue side. So of a lot of, not all, but a lot of our regular venues come and speak on that panel, and it's online. So if you do want to kind of look through that, that has a lot of tips and tricks on how to work with your venue. So I kind of want to talk about where we're all right now. Where we're all at right now. Budgeting. How do you sit down and say, I'm gonna do this crazy thing? How do you start that process? And then kind of hand in hand it goes with, do you typically fundraise that money? Do you start with a fundraising plan, or do you say I'm going to do this out of pocket and make it back in ticket sales? And then we'll kind of talk about both separately a little later, so you don't have to cover all of those. But right now, where's your head at? Last year.
Well, so I think we had a very successful show. I was very proud of the audience turnout for our show, but we still didn't make our money back. And we spent as little as we possibly could. So I do have to say that the Fringe is not really about making money. And there's probably a way to do it. I don't have the secret to that. I would say that what you're signing up for is from my perspective, we tried to do it all out of pocket. I didn't want to fundraise because I was hoping that we could do this for very little money so that we could, use this kind of audience that we gathered to fundraise later on for future projects. So I was, this was like a launching point. So we were hoping that this would be an investment to the future. And thankfully it was, but I would say budgeting, your biggest cost is going to be the venue, and you're really going to have to use that to all advantage. Talk to the venues directly, make sure that you have the best relationship you can with them, and money is a big defining aspect of any relationship, sadly. As far as set goes, as far as paying your actors, as far as everything, all that stuff goes, just spend as little as possible, and try to figure. I mean, the joy of Fringe is figuring out the tricks to make it work without spending money. And that, like, when I go and see a play that nails that like makes something magical happen, that's like, oh my gosh, I could do that, and they did it. That idea is that to me is beautiful to see. I have no idea how to budget as little as possible. We had a spreadsheet, and we went over budget, but we stayed pretty close. But still, we didn't make, in the end, after even an encore series, we didn't make our money back. So just be warned that budgeting is going to be something that you're saying goodbye to a lot of money.
Just gonna paint a slightly rosier picture.
Please do.
I have made money on shows at Fringe, but on shows where, it was an ensemble and we were all working together for very little money, so most people were being paid sort of like just a nominal fee, but the company made money on the show more than once. My 2 big points about budgeting are goals and capacity, or sell-through. That's another way to put it. Your goals are yours. They don't have to be anybody else's. Only you know why you're doing Fringe. Some people are doing Fringe to launch a theater company. Some people are doing Fringe because they've had this idea burning in them for decades and they're finally gonna do it. And so we all come to the table with these different sets of priorities. And so for some people, breaking even is a real priority and an economic necessity. And for some people, they might have savings that they're willing to spend on this because they say, this is something I love, and people spend money on things they care about, and I'm gonna spend the money, I don't care. That's cool too. Some people will say, I have a budget in mind that is different from what I have saved, I'm gonna fundraise. They're all valid. And you know which one's right for you. So don't feel like one of them is the best or not. My point about sell-through is that whatever you decide your goal is about making money, you then need to budget realistically. So for me, I go in not so much thinking I have to budget as low as I possibly have to, though that is valid, but I think I want to spend X amount of money. How many tickets do I realistically think I can sell? And balancing that act is where you figure out, okay, I need to cut back in my costumes. I need to cut back in my props.
That's just
You
smart
shouldn't
business.
cut back in your set because you shouldn't have one. Don't have one. So don't make the mistakes. But sell-through is the percentage of the house you think you're gonna sell at every show. So budgeting around 50% of your ticket selling is smart. Budgeting around 100% is dumb. Don't do it. Again, don't make my mistakes. I've done that. With immersive, it's a little bit different because the market is different. But typically, budgeting around 50% of your ticket selling is a good starting point to start thinking, okay, that's how much my tickets are gonna offset my expenses. And then you go from there to think, am I using savings? Am I fundraising? Am I cutting my expenses so that's all I'm spending? It's algebra. It's great.
I agree with Monica with goals. What is the goal for this show for you? What do you want to see it do? Where do you want to see it go? Are you telling a story that you need to get out? Exactly what you were saying. With that in mind, I say that, well, for me personally, I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone very often, and doing so, I did fundraise. I did have a GoFundMe, and I did use my own money, and I set a number that I knew that I could hit with my own funds and pushed it a little bit further.
Oh, I'm gonna interrupt really quickly. So there's a Blue Beetle and a silver Prius blocking construction, and they need to move or else they might get towed.
What's your sound?
It's right on McAdam. What's going
So on this street, right?
Yeah.
That street?
Yeah.
No, it's on McCadden, the one that is right in front. Nobody's,
Yeah.
Nope.
yep, go, yeah. Gotta make sure you guys get safe.
Yeah.
Okay,
That,
yeah.
you don't want, that goes out of your budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say I say look at it depending on what your goals are. If your goals are that you want to move this forward, or you want to, again, you want to say something, you want to put yourself out there, then definitely use your own money and push that money a little bit. I knew that I wasn't going to make any money from this show, and any money that I did make went straight back to the cast. I also knew I wanted to sell it out, and so I gave tickets and I sold tickets for $5. And I don't regret any of it because we sold out every show and brought in extra chairs, and it was great. But I knew I wasn't going to make any money off of it. I knew I was losing the amount that I had budgeted. So you can't look at it like, you can, absolutely, that you want to make money from it. But it is your goal. What is your goal? That you want to have people see your show, right? You want to possibly make a jump-off career move. So with that in mind, whatever it takes to make that happen monetarily wise, go for it. The only thing you have to lose is the fact that you regret not really going for it.
Yeah, I would agree with all three of them so far. Definitely with, budget low, especially depending on what your show is. Like, figure if you don't have to spend a ton of money, because the biggest expense is going to be, your venue. And the other thing to keep in mind too is don't just think about, okay, I got to make back the cost of spending on my venue, because you should also be spending money on marketing. Can't say that enough. Like, if you don't budget for that, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. So, make sure that you're allotting money to spend on Facebook ads, Instagram ads. If you're getting flyers, if you're getting, space on the Fringe page or in the book, make sure you allot for that, because that is an expense that, sometimes you may not initially think about, versus, okay, I've got to get these props, pay for the venue, I'm paying actors, or I'm going to do, X, Y, Z. It's like, oh yeah, I need to promote the show. Yeah, that you cannot forget about. You're definitely not going to go into it. Do not go into it thinking that, oh yeah, I'm going to sell out, 4 out of 5 shows. The other one will be 80%. While that will be nice, especially for your first time. Again, like Monica was saying, be realistic about the goals too. If you budget for 50%, then hey, you can get a happy surprise if you sell out more. That's how you kind of need to look at it. And with goals, your goal for Fringe should not be to try and make money. No, it's not. It's not going. It's not going to happen. If you make money, great, but it's not going to oh, okay, I'm going to pay my rent this. Buy groceries. Sure, okay. Do something nice for your cast afterwards. Okay, definitely. Pay off my car, not so much. Unless your show costs $150 to do, and which won't happen. So main thing is just be realistic. Keep in mind what to spend money on. Because I know at this point in the game, last year, I started thinking about marketing. So okay, how much are we going to need to spend? And also what to spend money on. Something that you should take advantage of if it's allowed at your venue is, hey, if you can serve beverages or anything, and then accept donations for it, that can help cover some of your costs, or at least help you recoup some of it, or help you get to that break-even point. Last year, we broke even on all of our costs for the venue at about half in marketing. That's a win. If you could do that, that can definitely consider that a win, especially if doing one of your goals for Fringe is to get exposure, grow your own abilities and try to push the show, somewhere else and try to get extensions. Then that you accomplished your goal. So as long as you do that, it's not always about the money. That's really the main thing to keep in mind.
I have a tool to offer. Do you guys know the good, cheap, fast triangle? Yeah. So things can be good, things can be cheap, or they can be fast. And they can be 2 of the 3. But they can't be all 3. So I think about this all the time when I'm producing, that a lot of times if you end up, and it inherently makes sense that if you run out of time and you want something done well, you gotta spend a bunch of money to do it at the last minute, right? If you have a lot of time to, say, source a very specific prop by going to yard sales or driving around and scouting on the street, you can probably get something cheap and good. What's the other
Fast.
combo? Yeah.
Fast and good.
Fast and
good.
Oh, yeah, fast and good is not cheap. Cheap and fast is crap. So if you're trying to not spend a lot of money, things do tend to take more time or more effort. And this gets to one of my classic pieces of Fringe advice, which is have enough people supporting you. Things are really hard when you are the writer, director, producer. Again, I feel like you get 2 of all those hats. It all comes down to pick 2 things. But if you're the writer, producer, director, actor, you need somebody helping you because there's too much to do and it's gonna either end up being expensive for you or it's gonna not get done as well as it could be if you had somebody helping you. And this could be a spouse, a sibling, your mom, a friend. It doesn't necessarily need to be an expert. It just needs to be somebody who's willing to put in some time with you.
Yeah, for sure, especially if you're doing a solo show, where, the crew is small, like, some of us, if you have a larger show, you have a big cast and crew, yeah, you're lucky you have that many people that can, do social media, that can reach out to press. If it's a solo show, it's you, the director, maybe a couple of friends. So you have to, time management for sure. That little section on Craigslist, free, can be your best friend. You wouldn't believe the kind of stuff that people just give away on any given weekend. Hit all the little costume shops, find, and any of those even non-traditional things to find props or a costume, learn how to put things together yourself. That'll help out a lot with, getting those costs down and, just to work smarter and not harder. Because I know how much, either stress or just how hard it was putting on a show, and I had a production team. So I envy those that have like a solo show, or it's 2 or 3 of us, because it can be a lot of work. So you have to prepare yourself for that, and don't be afraid to ask for help. There's absolutely no reason to do Fringe alone, or thinking that I got this, maybe, but why stress yourself out and get gray hairs or lose your hair?
One of my favorite pieces of advice from one of these panels was somebody said to outsource things that are fun. Because although you might feel FOMO about it, it's easy to get like a friend to do them for you, like painting something, or if you have like something specific in mind, or even like going to things like office hours with you. And outsourcing some of those like more fun things can actually take more stress off of you, which I thought was a great thing, because you're always like, well, I want to do the fun things, but those are the easiest things to take off, they said. So I thought that was great. So kind of in this fundraising vein, what have you done? Are there any like tips and tricks that you're like, yes, and anything that you're like, don't do that?
As far as fundraising goes?
As far as
specifically?
fundraising goes, yeah. So that could be like, people have done things like throwing parties, or like selling merch to the crowd, or doing a Kickstarter, or doing like normal fundraising type thing,
I will be honest with you, I've never done fundraising, so I can't really weigh in on this one. So I can pass probably.
Yeah,
But I could offer my unsolicited advice, which probably won't be helpful in any way, shape, or form. But I'll pass.
I have worked in fundraising events as my day job, and I will tell you, don't do a fundraising event, because the only way they make money, like at big nonprofits, is through big volunteer bases. Like your board gets involved, and you have big time donors asking their friends for money, and that's like a lot of infrastructure to set up. It is not. They do not make money on selling tickets, so it's like doing a party for $10 a head or something. It's really, really hard to make those numbers work. I've done a number of crowdfund campaigns for my work. I think the key to crowdfunding is, a couple things. Don't be afraid to ask for money. You're worth it. If you don't think you're worth it, why should anybody else give you any money? Second, be really, really diligent about crowdfunding. You need to be engaging with the campaign every day of the campaign. So if it's 2 weeks long, you need a calendar before you go in. I'm sure you could speak to what you did. A calendar before you go in. This is what's happening every day of the campaign. Because ones that it has to be produced just as much as you'd produce a show. I'll stop there.
I didn't have a calendar. But I did GoFundMe, and I really like, again, comfort zone smash. I've never done that before, GoFundMe. So I thought, why do I donate to GoFundMe? What pulls my string that I give money? And it's usually when it's tied into something that matters to the person, a cause. My show had an umbrella overarching theme of suicide, so I partnered with the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention and gave them 10% of all my proceeds. And I had a moment where I went to Guam and found out that 8 years old was the youngest age people were killing themselves in a 150,000 population country. And so I had this heavy feeling, and I was like, I felt like I could tie that into the story without exploiting, because it wasn't about exploitation. And I knew that that was something that mattered to me, and that's why I was doing this story. So that was something that worked. It interested me. I would donate to my campaign. And I did. Right? That's the key, right? So what makes you donate? Think about that. If it's your friends, just say, hey man, if all of your friends donated $5, if you guys just ask like that. But if you create something that's bigger than that, because it's going to go out through social media or however you're going to try to get the word out, just think about, for you on the other side of the computer, what affects you, and how can you use that to have people open their wallets?
For me, like Bert, I didn't do I didn't do a fundraising thing. We paid for the show kind of out of our pocket. However, we did get really lucky and got our show sponsored by PBR. So we gave out free beer. Well, they gave us cases of beer for each show in order to give out, hence, and, sell at the beverage stand or, buy for a donation. So if you can get, someone to sponsor, with your ads that you have in your programs, reach out to your friends that have small businesses, to have to buy an ad, to, or businesses that you frequent, a lot. If you go to, this cleaner or this restaurant a lot, the owner knows you, why not ask? Because the worst someone can say is no. And it's not that much to lose and really everything to gain. We never know. We weren't expected to have oh, wait, we got all these cases of beer? Great, okay, sure, we'll take it. So all it takes is just, asking, because you don't know who your friends may know that may be able to put you together with something like that. One of our friends, a friend of a friend's wife, worked for the company. That's how we were able to get that. So it's just, like you said, smashing that barrier of, okay, break the comfort zone, ask for money, or ask your friends, or even your cast, to say hey, do you guys mind, asking, around to say how can we help to make this work so that it's not as much of a financial burden, or so that we can put more money into the show to make it that much better, for everyone who's coming to see it.
Sweet. Also, we got an email from Kickstarter. They gave some best practices that I thought I would share, and also their senior performance lead, which I'll give you her email in a second, Jessica. She offered to give feedback if anybody wants to create a Kickstarter. She offered to review it before it goes up, to give you any notes, which I think is pretty cool. But some stuff that she said is that so if you were unsure of where to set your goal, their average pledge from their background is $75 for this category. So think about that, but then also think about how many people will be likely to donate, and then think about the average of what you think your audience would donate. And then before you launch, set up 2 groups to ensure that you have good momentum for the beginning, which are like early givers. So like folks who you can count on to like immediately support your campaign and make it pop up. And then somebody who's an ambassador who can share your campaign and send it out when it has all these people you kind of backing it. And then when it comes to like rewards, like a lot of people like to offer rewards for this type of stuff. Focus on things that are a combination of being easy to deliver, interesting for your audience, and a part of your process already. Get creative, but don't bother with merch generally. That's a tip. Apparently
No
nobody wants
shipping.
merch.
Yeah.
And she also said, don't let the video stress you out. It can be as simple as something filmed on your iPhone in your living room. It just needs to have good lighting and good sound, but she said that it doesn't have to be like, for instance, fancy camera, and you should be able to do it on pretty much any phone nowadays. And she also recommends signing up. They have like a creator bootcamp series, which is like there's like a webinar and like an email series about how to do these types of campaigns. And then again, her email is Jessica at Kickstarter. If you did end up wanting to do a Kickstarter, she said that she would look them over, which I thought was pretty cool.
Great.
And that's it about that. Another thing is actually, Royce, it was really interesting that you brought up ad sales, because I know last year when we did this panel, Sophie Kahn, she basically like she made her show work because she sold ads like crazy in her program, and then she also like sub-sold a part of her ad that she bought the back page of the Fringe guide. She like outbid it, and then sub-sold a part of it.
She got a sponsorship from
Yeah.
a local restaurant
Yeah.
and promised them like a
mention,
banner,
Yeah.
basically on the bottom of her ad on the back cover of the guide.
Smart.
Yeah.
Which
Very
is like smart.
Well, smart.
Yeah, like she also like works in promotions and in marketing. So like if you want to if you're thinking about ad sales, if that's something that you feel comfortable with and you want more information, I would highly recommend going into last week's video and watching a little subsection of that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. People have done crazy things, and I like to say as we're going through this, like every single time I do a panel, I'm hearing brand new information. Because everybody does this really, it's just in so many different ways, and they all work. And these are all like best practices, and if you're like listening to this and you're like, ooh, no, that does not work for me, that's totally great, because your way will probably work too. You know, they're like best practices and meant to be broken as long as you follow the #1 rule of the Fringe, which is don't be a jerk. Everything else? So now I kind of want to go into we kind of started touching on marketing and ticketing. And I want to know, do you, with your tickets, first of all, how do you set your ticket prices, and what range do you generally sell your tickets in? You don't have to give an exact number. You don't have to be like, I sell my tickets for $12, or I sell them for much more, or less. But it's also
One-on-one show.
But yeah, so how do you usually set your ticket price?
We did it for 15 last year, and that's a little expensive, I think, for Fringe. But it was, a goal that we wanted to reach, and we thought we were worth it, and all that stuff. And it was fine, but it gave us a bar to set to go under for discount codes and for comps and things like that, just say 15 is our ticket price, but here's all these different ways that you can get cheaper tickets to our show and all that stuff, because I think that's just I don't know very much about marketing for theater specifically, or for anything really, but for theater, I'm learning a lot as we go along because of the way that Jekyll and Hyde is working. We've worked, I think, at 3 different theaters now. So now I'm discovering that it is kind of nice to have like a bar. Like, here's where you can get here's where our main website is. Here's where you can buy the tickets, and then there's all these other things that you can be like, okay, here's actually cheaper tickets and, secret ways to do it, because people like to find those. I do. Every time I'm like, how do you get cheap tickets to a Broadway show, or how do you get cheap tickets to a theater? I love that. So 15 was a little high. I don't know if I recommend that, but it does allow you some wiggle room underneath to.
It's less than Hamilton is charging.
Yeah, exactly. But for Fringe shows, I was just talking to Zachary outside, and he was like, we did the extension here, and since it was co-produced by the center, we upped it. So we've started charging 20%, or $20 for it, and half the proceeds went to the homeless youth here. So it was kind of for that situation. But when we went up to $20, it did limit our audience significantly, because most of our audience was Fringe audience, and everybody had just produced a Fringe show, and so everybody was like, I don't know if I'm going to spend $20 on a Fringe show. So I get, it's tough right now. Again, I don't say you're coming into this. I echo everything that they said, that you're doing this for a specific goal. So make sure you remember that goal, and you don't need to overcharge people to see theater. That's one thing that I really want to say is, in general, is that theater shouldn't be this expensive. And I do think that there's a way that you can make it work with having a cheaper ticket and still selling out and making money and all that stuff. I'm seriously not the businessman when it comes to this stuff. So obviously these people have better information. I'm glad I'm first.
Oh man. Well, your ticket price directly relates to your budget. If you're, building a budget with income and expense, as you tinker with the ticket price and with that sell-through ratio, you can do these different types of projections to see, okay, if I sold half the house at $10 a ticket, I'd be getting this number in my income. If I went up to 12, here's what my max would be. If I was at 15, this is what it would be. And then you kind of find out what makes sense for you. I think Fringe average ticket is something like 12. At
Yeah.
one point it was.
It totally depends.
Yeah.
I don't have the number off the top of my head, but yeah,
That's
12
the number
sounds
Dave
right.
has said in the past.
12 sounds right.
12's average.
12 sounds great.
So you want to strike a balance of something that's affordable and is going to get people in the door, but that discounting I've found to be an important tool at Fringe, so that you can have like a friends and family discount code, or you can give people a little discount code on your postcard. It feels like you're giving people a gift. People love gifts. So budgeting in a way that you're going to, like they did, where you can come underneath with like a participant discount, which I think you have to. It has to be $1 off.
You have a mandated participant.
So you're gonna have different levels of ticket price, and there's like some cool complicated algebra you can do. It's not complicated, it's just algebra. But there's some formula you can build to do like average sales price and all this stuff. But really, you just need to know like what's the nut you need to make from tickets. Okay, now how low can your tickets go to hit that? If you're doing immersive work, there's a whole different set of rules. So what I do there, I'll say for the sake of the people at home, immersive work is very, very expensive to produce, and the market for it supports very high ticket prices. We could have a debate about the ethics of that all day long. But what we tend to do is we start our ticket prices for a show that we're premiering at Fringe and then planning to run past it. We will start with a price that seems very, very high for Fringe, but is actually probably like half of what we will end up charging for the show. So we did a show last year at Fringe, we charged $45, which sounds insane. But then after Fringe, after we extended, we were charging $90, and it sold out every show. So,
Right.
people pay.
Again, it's your goals, right? So if your goals are to break even, make some money back, then yeah, producer, definitely. For me, I didn't want to look out and see an empty audience. It was like heartbreaking to me. It was my first time doing this. So I guess I'm an empath by nature. Like I said, what's going to make you open your wallet? When I go to the Fringe last year, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not, because I think the most shows someone saw in a Fringe season was like 72. I went and saw 32 last year, and I was away for a week in June. So this year I want to try to beat that number. But so what I do is I take the back of the book, and I'm like, okay, I'm here. I can go see this, I can go see that, and I had a budget for myself. I was like, I'm not gonna see anything that's like $12, $15, because I'm gonna go, it's too much money, and I'm trying to see this many shows. And so I would piecemeal shows together, you know, and I'd be like, oh, that's 5, that's 8, that's this, I'll go. And that's how I, as a audience member, would see so many amazing shows. And you have to think about your audience. You know, your audience is gonna be like people like me who want to see lots of shows, as many as they can. They have a budget. I have a personal budget that I try to spend as an audience member. So you want to make sure that your number, well, you don't want to make sure, but it's something to think about, that your number is empathetic to their wallets as well.
Yeah, I agree that, you know, discount codes are definitely, you know, your friend in this. So what I did to try to determine the price to charge for my show, I looked at the other shows in my category and see what they were charging. So I was like, okay, I didn't want to be charged more, but I didn't want to charge significantly less either. So for mine, like the indie cabaret variety portion, the average price was $15. So, you know, we charged $15 last year. But we also had discount codes. So if, you know, going to the office hours, okay, yeah, you get a discount. Oh, hey, you have a show in a complex too? All right, great, you get a discount. Oh, you're my friend, family, mother, brother, sister, discount. So there's always a way to bring that down, because then people see the value in, oh, I'm getting 50% off. That's the price I wanted to sell it at anyway to break even. Because if you know what your break even point is, whatever that number is, and you know how many tickets at, say, 15 you need to sell to get that, how many at 10 can you sell to get that number, how many at 8, 5, and so on and so forth, whatever combination at least gets you to that break even number, that's what you do. Because, you know, you will have shows where you have, you know, 5, 6, 10 comps. Because, you know, you're comping press to come see your show. You're comping industry, you know, might be comping your parents or someone else. Yeah, because they might get mad if you charge their parents. But you know what I mean? Like that's the thing. You want to, you know, to be smart about it, because it all works hand in hand. You know, knowing how much money you're going to spend, knowing what your budget is, you know, just to begin with, and also you don't want to shortchange yourself either. So, you know, you don't want to start and say like, yeah, my show is $5. Sure, you'll get butts in the seats, but, you know, are you budgeted to also take, you know, a loss on your expenses? If you are, then hey, do it. You know, get people in the seats, get those reviews, get more and more eyes on your show. You know, it all goes back to depending on what your goals are. But if you want to go somewhere in the middle, it's like, hey, if I at least, you know, make back the investment, or, you know, a certain percentage of that, whatever that is, you know, use your discount codes to your advantage, and with the, you know, with the marketing and everything else, so that, you know, you're not eating ramen for a month after Fringe is over, so that, you know, yeah, or I mean, yeah, just so it's all planning. I mean, that's really what it is, and, you know, being smart, getting inventive about how you advertise your discount codes. You know, whether you're meeting people at office hours, or you have an ad at other shows. Another thing that was huge for me last year, which again I plan to do, you know, the people that you meet at office hours, like we call them your friendships that you make, you know, do ad swaps. Say, hey, I'll put your ad in my program, you put mine in yours, I'll put a discount code in there for your show. It's like, hey, you come to see my show, you get this special discount code of $5 off to go see this one, and vice versa. Because then you're helping each other, because, you know, all of us, you know, we all know there's like a minimum amount of money we're spending on this thing. Everybody, you want to try to get some of that back, but you also want people to see your show. You want people in the seat, so why not, you know, help each other out? Fringe really is a community, you know, and a lot of it is based off of, you know, helping each other. That's why we have these panels. That's why, you know, all of us, you know, agree to come and, you know, impart this knowledge to everyone else, because, yeah, we've been there. We know how it is, and you want everyone to do well. I mean, honestly. So that's the thing you do.
Have you guys ever used your discount codes to kind of see where your audience is, or use that for tracking? Or
Yeah, I was
anything
gonna
like that?
suggest that.
Mhm.
You can use discount codes to track the effectiveness of your advertising.
Mhm.
So if you have a, say you take out, not that this would mean anything anymore, but an LA Weekly ad or something, which at one point was what people did for Fringe, and now the LA Weekly's kind of dead.
Yeah.
But for instance, if you publish a code on that ad, then through the Fringe dashboard, you can see which codes are being used. So you can say, oh, well, people are buying tickets with that code. That means that one's working. Maybe I should buy another week. If you see that it's not being used at all, pull your money from that form of advertising.
Yeah, I had 15 different discount codes last year, all tracking, so I could see, all right, what mode of advertising is working best? Are any of them working? Or like, okay, I'm getting most of these discount codes are being used by, friends of the cast and the writers. So like, okay, great, this works. That means also it's like, all right, good. All of them are doing their job with promoting as well. And it's not just me. Like this kind of advantage when you have a team of people around you. Give everyone their own discount code. Give everyone a goal. It's like, all right, yeah, whoever gets the most people to buy tickets, wins this prize or gets this or whatever. You can easily see, which code is selling more. So it's like, make it easier on yourself to be able to track. Like it's a really smart thing to do.
So we're kind of pivoting into marketing, and then we'll kind of close it out with budgeting again, since they're so hand in hand. But I really wanted to know when you're in office hours, which are about to start, if you haven't been to office hours, you're probably like, what is that? It's like a crowded room. Like imagine if we were all standing with like a drink in our hand. Could be soda water, could be a beer, could be something else. And I'm like, hey Royce, what's going on? And you're like, great, I'm Royce. We didn't know each other. Sorry, we didn't know each other. And I'm like, hi, I'm Ellen. I see your name is Royce right there. And then he's like, let me tell you about my show. What stands out to you? Like, what about those interactions stand out? How do you want people to come approach you? Like, how do you start making those friendships? And how do you start pitching your show?
Oh, I thought you were giving an example, but.
No, God, no.
Why?
No, God, no.
Oh, no, because the thing people always say is like, don't tell people about your show, ask people about their show.
Yeah.
As your first move.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the gentlest form of networking in the world because
Yeah.
you always have something to talk about with people.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your show? What's your deal?
Right. Well, it's the book, right? Well, How to Win Friends and Influence People is like, don't talk about yourself. Ask questions,
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead.
No. That's the big thought.
Oh no, yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I think asking questions was immediately was. Somebody said on the panel. I came to this panel last year, and somebody said that it's like networking 101. It's like all you have to do is show up, and everybody's willing to talk about their show. So you just have to ask, and then they'll ask you. It's like it's such a reciprocal situation. As far as things that stood out to me, it's a big environment. I mean, hundreds of people show up to these office hours. They're crazy, and it's a big environment. I expected it to be kind of like casual cocktails with like people that actually showed up, but it ends up being like a big party. People are dressed up. It's fun in a lot of aspects, but it can come on a little too strong for me, who's just like, hi, how are you? So I always recommend having just like a really brief description of your show, so that way you're not talking about yourself for a long period of time, because that always turned me off when somebody went into I really thought about the depth of my show when I was 16 and I went through this really pivotal point in my life and stuff like that. Well, that's really interesting, but I'm not watching your show right now. I'll see it and we'll get that experience, but now I'm not sure if I want to see it. So yeah, just come up with a very brief description of your show and just be very, very supportive of the other people, another thing is don't really make promises too.
Good one. Good
Yeah, that's
advice.
a good one.
I have a problem doing that. I'm a yes man, so I have a problem being like, oh yeah, that sounds right up my alley. I'm definitely gonna go see and I'll bring a bunch of people and blah blah blah. And you're like, no, because then I'll look bad to this person. You know, under promise, over deliver. So whenever you're talking to these people, don't immediately be like, I'll be there. You know, see, like I'll try. It sounds like a really interesting show. I'll try to make it. If we can work together on marketing or something like that, let's come up with a way. But don't be like, you know, because I know that we were talking about this before. When I was doing Fringe last year, we had so many performances, and for a month prior to Fringe, it was just my fiance and I doing everything with our show. We unfortunately didn't have a team, so we were working like 16, 17 hours a day, all Jekyll and Hyde, building a set, costume, everything, and it was insane. But when Fringe actually started and the shows actually went going, not only did we have to perform, but we had to catch up on all the life stuff that we just left behind for the past month, like just basic stuff like laundry, you know? So I didn't get to see very many Fringe shows. I got to see as many as I possibly could, and I had a lot of friends in Fringe, and it was great to have that community and stuff, but I didn't get to see as many, so I overpromised a lot of people, and I still feel guilty about it. So just be worried about that.
I always am drawn to people who have a really good and brief story. And so when I say, so what's your show about? They kind of respond with something like, it's a story about this woman who buys a boat and then she sails around the world and then she becomes a snake charmer. I'm like, ooh, that sounds cool. As opposed to, it's about oppression and hope and justice. Like these like big concept words. I want to know what the story is going to be about so I can start to set my expectations of what being in the audience would be like. And this is actually supported by research as well on new work in regional theaters. There was a big study that came out a couple of years ago that says like that's what audiences want, is they want to know what the story's about. They don't really want mystery, they don't want intrigue, they want to kind of know what it's about. So yeah, rehearsing your elevator pitch so that it's very clear, short, maybe is funny even if the show's not funny, can kind of work too. Yeah.
And you'd say like 2 lines.
2 sentences.
Yeah. And fortunately for me, that was really easy because everybody knows Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So it was just, we're doing a comedy of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
But how did you like use Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde if people are like, oh, okay, got it. How did you make it unique? So say like people are doing it.
Well, a ton of people would ask me this, which I felt was kind of condescending, but also like it was a good question to follow.
Oh, I
up.
was just meeting it.
No, not this question. It was what are you doing different?
Right.
And I was and that's a real question that I would have probably asked too. I would always say it's just 2 people. My fiance was playing 15 characters, and I was playing Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So right there solves it. Done. I don't have to over-explain that. That's already. I think that figures it out. But I don't know. I mean, hopefully people responded well to it.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously.
That pitch.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that 2-sentence description
Yeah.
of like that's the
So I have social anxiety. This is my personal hell right now. Being on stage with a camera on me. So I was not very good at the office hours. I would let people talk to me and what
I
really
really beg to differ.
Yeah, I would too.
you one-on-one I'm great. One-on-one I'm great.
Well,
This
but
is-
actually, that first year, if I may,
you held my hand.
well, we did it together, and actually, it made both of our experiences of office hours better. Like, I had my best kind of experience of office hours that year too, because
Yeah.
we were like wingmanning each other
Yeah.
the whole time, and so we'd walk up to people together and be
Right.
like, "Have you met Natasha? She's doing this really cool show. This is what it's about," and we would like pitch each other's shows.
Right, and that did work.
That
That
worked.
definitely, yeah, because, if you're excited about somebody, and we were very excited, and we still are. But yeah, so for me though, what works, and I still have some on my fridge, is the flyer. I have a baseball card, the show, I have the flyers, I'm like, oh, baseball card, I'm going to go see this, I love baseball, of course I'm going to go see this. I still have flyers from 2017, 2016 on my fridge. So I don't even need sometimes the pitch, I'm just like, oh, that picture is so captivating that I'm going, I'm in. So that can say a lot without you having to say a word.
Yeah, I would say like for office hours, like for me, it was a lot of fun. I would say, don't wait until May to start going to office hours, because everyone and their mother and all their cousins are going to be there at the same time. At the first ones, like maybe like the first 10, very easy, go navigate around, talk to people, meeting people, you have big friends, people that you see them later on. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, how's it going? Like, yeah, how's your stuff going? Great, yeah. And then, like you said, you're going around with each other, like pitching each other's shows to other people, just by, oh yeah, I know this person, I like them, like I've seen them at multiple things. Yeah, why not? Last year, one of the people I met at the office hours, we were talking about each other's shows. She told her now fiance about the show. Her fiance ended up being one of the guests in my Fringe show. So just like that, I was like, oh, okay, great. Like, you never know who you're going to be. Make the best out of that. Also, yeah, like Bert was saying, it's like, when you're, don't give a life story for, when you're saying like what your show is about, because everyone's there for the same thing. They have a name tag. Oh, this is someone I can easily talk to and say hi about, because we're here for the same purpose. So it's it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like you're at one of those like singles mixers, whatever. Part of the anxiety is taken away because, oh wait, they're here for the same reason, and they're probably not necessarily going out to go and talk to people either. So there's a little bit of the wall is kind of taken down. So take advantage of that. Also, definitely don't overpromise. Try to go to shows, because I don't know about any of you, but I know like once the show started, I was like, oh yeah, we don't have a show tonight or a rehearsal or anything. Go to sleep. So a lot for that too, because like especially if it's your first year, you'll be tired. So like I definitely did go and try and see as many shows as I did. I think I ended up seeing about 10 shows, but I know there were at least 20 others I wanted to see. So be realistic about yourself and your own energy level with that too. Definitely ask a question first. Say like, hey, what's your show about? And be genuine about that. Don't just ask just to be asking, because people can see through that. I will never forget this experience I had last year. I was talking to one of my friends at one of the office hours. Someone came up and was talking to him. I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? Introduce myself. Yeah, what's your show? And they're like, well, it's about this. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, can I get a flyer? And they really didn't want to give me a flyer. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to this show now. It's like, it's kind of like that, the rule, don't be a jerk, or many other words, or jerk. Don't do that. And he's like, why? There's no reason. Just be nice. It's a friendly environment, and we all want the same thing. All of this just kind of works together. It's just, hey, you want to promote your show, but you do also want to see other shows. Like Fringe for me was like, I got to see so much great theater, and I had never really seen that much theater at one time before. So it was an inspiring experience. So just like you want people to come and be inspired at your show, they want the same thing. Go do it.
Did you have something?
I was just thinking, friendships are really important at the office hours. Those people that you meet at these office hours, that when you come in, you're immediately like, hey, what's going on? Because then you guys you tackle the room together or create a circle or whatever, but at the same time, don't be too clustered up. Always allow people to come in and talk to you, because nothing was worse than, I would go to these by myself sometimes, and I would just like stand outside a circle of people, just kind of wait for an end, and then jump in with, hey! And those people didn't see my show.
I want to remind everyone that if you are at our events, I am at mostly all of them. And then we also have like our events coordinator, Alex is somewhere in the back, right there. And if you ever are at an event and you're like, I don't know who to talk to, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I don't want to leave, and like I just want to talk to somebody that can like help me kind of re-navigate this space, that's what we're here for. So you can be like, I'm doing a one-person show and it's about this, and I'll be like, here's 5 people that you can talk to. You know, because there's kind of like a Rolodex in my head now of like 4 or 5 years worth of Fringe shows, and I'm just like, you should talk to this person. And generally, everybody is like super excited to hear about these new shows and are super excited to help somebody who's like, I'm feeling like I need to take a step back is also a totally valid feeling, and like there's always usually an outdoor space or take a step outside. I like to take a walk around the block during these events because like I said, I go to almost all of them, and it can be really like, it's emotionally exhausting. So like take that walk around the block, get back in, feel good.
Yeah.
Well,
Introverts, take care of yourself.
Yeah, seriously.
And that goes into my next question, which
Yeah.
is like, how do you emotionally budget? And then emotionally budget for this. So there's like all of this budgeting that you go into. But like for me, during right now, I'm like learning how to re-meal prep for this type of time of year where I like change my grocery lists from like fun things to cook to like things I can cook really fast. So like, how do you guys do that?
I have a problem because when I do something, I throw myself fully into it. I know I'm not the best example of things, but I did this with my fiance, and at that point we weren't engaged. In fact, during the run, I proposed to her, so it was, which is thanks. Just to win you
She
over
said
again.
yes.
Yeah, she said yes. Thank God. I mean, and that was part of it, was that we were able to emotionally budget throughout the experience together, because we would rehearse it in our apartment. I built it in our apartment. Everything was in our space together, and it was just a lot. It was a lot for us to handle. Thankfully, we had produced a movie together, but and it was a way worse experience. So this ended up kind of allowing us time to figure out how we work together. So my biggest piece of advice is really know who you're working with and how to work with them. Because when I did Cool for Love a couple years ago, I didn't have a great experience working with the people that I was working with, and I was a jerk. I ended up being a jerk, and that really wasn't a good situation. And this time around, I was really worried about it, especially since I was working with the person that I was in love with and wanted to spend my life with. So I needed to realize what is best for me, how best I work, how best I can handle myself on any given day with any given task, and be able to give anything that I needed over to her, and she was able to give that back to me. So communication, and thankfully, we're very communicative in our relationship, but I would recommend that in your producing partners, in your cast, in anybody, just be very, very communicative and be honest about it. Because if something is too much, I will hold on to it and then just grow resentment, and it'll create a big problem. But instead, if you let that build, it's a big problem. So you have to allow yourself. One big thing is that she didn't really enjoy going to the office hours, so I took that task. One thing that she really enjoyed doing was going around and finding all the props and all the costumes and everything that we needed, and I let her be director. I didn't let her. She was director of the show, and thank God she was, because if I was director, it would not have turned out the way it did, and I would have created a big hissy fit, because I know that what my limits are, and she knows what her limits are, and we were able to balance that with each other. And I recommend that very, very much with whoever you're working with. Find a way to communicate with them.
Yeah.
That's all.
I couldn't agree more. Like, making people that you work with feel safe and like they can tell you anything is so important. We were doing a show last year that was about a church, and was also like dealt with like domestic violence, and it's just like name an issue, it was in there, like of traumatic things that could happen to someone. And yeah, it was really, really important that the cast felt like they had an advocate in me and in the director, and so we had to really be present for them. I will say I did not do a great job last year of taking care of myself while doing that work, because I was able to be present for them, but the cost was me. Because my, full disclosure, my partner is on the Fringe staff, and by the end of June, Ellen probably remembers this, and I think Alex was there too, the Fringe staff party was at our house, and I was so exhausted, and I had spent all of my emotional resources, and I'm like a friendly introvert, so I seem like an extrovert, but I'm not. And I went to go get an ice cream out of the freezer, like at this party, and I opened the freezer door into my own face. So hard that I immediately started crying, and basically just like collapsed. And my partner had to like walk me past everyone and put me in bed like I was a child. And so don't make that mistake. But this year, like getting ready for Fringe again, we had to think so much in our relationship about taking care of our physical needs so that we're never spending any emotional energy on those. So meal prep is huge, kind of planning out, like looking at the week in advance on Monday, planning things out, like knowing how you're gonna get from place to place, like we only have one car, so like planning things out. So we're doing a lot of work right now to lay the groundwork for a good Fringe.
Budget for fluff and fold.
Budget for fluff and
Yeah.
And you don't have to do any of that. That's hours, time.
don't open the freezer here.
I was happily single, so I didn't have any of that. Yeah, it was just me. And I was writing, directing, producing. I was doing social media, which I don't have in my normal life. So I was like, I don't know. And then I have a very, very big day job. I write for a production company. So I knew that I had to get everything that would stress me out of the way as soon as possible. So I made sure I got my postcards done right away. I made sure I got my cast and auditions, and had made finally a calendar for when our rehearsals would be, and okayed it with them. I really just got rid of a lot of the stress that I knew was going to come compounding on me. I didn't really have anybody I had a co-producer, but she was in the show. And I could lean on her, sort of. I could lean on Matt Quinn, sort of. I could lean on Monica, sort of. But it wasn't to the point of partnership. So it was a lot on me. It was a lot of pressure. So I got the things out of the way that I knew were going to be stressful early on, and that really paid off at the end, because I did have time to go see other shows, and I did have time to pay attention to my work and do my job well. And I don't feel, I didn't hit myself in the face with the freezer. I didn't, and I remember Monica, one of the best pieces of advice Monica gave me was, after June, in July, it's gonna be like, you're gonna be lonely, you're gonna be like, what happened? I had all these friends, and I had a whole social life, and now everything's gone. And I feel it, and you know, there is definitely this gap, this blue gap. But I didn't have it quite so bad, because I had that wonderful piece of advice, and I just knew how to. Here I'm doing a play about, you know, a humorous play, but a play about suicide, and I knew that it was going to be heavy, and you know, my family's seeing this, and it's got a lot to do with them, and but I knew that, you know, just get things out of the way as soon as I could, and not have those stresses come compounding on me in June.
Yeah, I agree, like, you know, with you being, like, you know, single during that time, so I didn't have that, that stress, but, yeah, I forgot about how lonely July was. No, just because it's like, you know, you're used to, like, all right, you know, Wednesday I'm going to office hours, all right, do I have 1 or 2 shows this week? All right, now I have this and that, and then July is like,
Where'd everybody go?
well, I guess I can catch up on my Hulu queue, because God knows I didn't watch anything for the last 3 months. So, you know, you have that, but yeah, like, you know, if you have a day job, like I had a regular 9 to 5, which thankfully, you know, allowed me to do things for Fringe while I was at work. Not everybody has that luxury, so, you know, plan, you know, have at least 1 day a week where it's like, okay, No Fringe, no nothing else. Go do something for yourself. Whether it's, all right, I want to go see a movie. I want to go take a walk. I want to take a nap. Like, anything just to get that, that emotional equity back in your life. Because that is something that's needed, for sure. Because, Fringe can be a lot. So I was, hosting a show, producing it, help doing the social media and the marketing, and reaching out to press. 3 of those things I had not done before. So this is me all doing this, kind of like myself. And kind of what I learned was like, one, make sure you have a crew that you can trust, that you can delegate to, that you can ask questions of, because it helps to have someone else to help shoulder the burden that can be Fringe. Also, I'm glad I live in California, and there are certain things you can do here, not in the States. That helps. But all jokes aside, well, that's not really a joke. Yeah. One thing I remember about with the office hours, so at first, I didn't have my flyers done, by the time the first office hours come around. And
Which most people won't.
Right.
That's why.
So what I did was like, okay, hey, what's your Instagram? Do you have an Instagram for your show?
Smart.
Do that. Make an Instagram for your show. People will follow. You'll follow each other, and also you'll get reminded of, oh yeah, I really wanted to see this show. I wanted to see that one. And then when you do have your flyers, you do have your business cards. Oh hey, I have mine now. Oh great, yeah, I have mine now too. That exchange happens, and people will remember that. So that helps a lot.
So I was so excited to end on this really lovely question, and then I realized I didn't ask this one. And then we'll take questions. But I really quickly wanted to ask, do you guys buy ads? And if so, is it online ads, strictly social media, print ads? We could just quickly go through that and then answer some of these questions.
Yes, I would say buy ads, budget for it, try to find effective ways to do it, research it. That's my best advice. I'm not an expert on it, but I know specifically that the Fringe website is probably one of the best places to put your ads, because and they have an easy way to do that, because you're getting all the Fringe traffic. So if you met somebody at office hours, they see your show on there. That the name repetition is really important with this. Facebook is great. Instagram is great. Those 3, I think, are the ones that I really targeted. So Facebook, Instagram, and Fringe office hour, Fringe website.
I've purchased an ad maybe 1 or 2 times in 10 years. So I'm an extremist of not spending money on marketing, because I just invest in my hustle and elevator pitch and whatnot, and because of the style of work that I do, that works. So it doesn't work for everybody, but that's been my experience. I will say that if you are going to do advertising for your show, wait until tickets are on sale. Don't spend any money on advertising until tickets are on sale, particularly on the Fringe website, which is a good place to spend money, is my sense. But wait until people are actually buying tickets, thus on the site all the time and clicking, because otherwise your impressions go really fast. Because not that many people are advertising.
That being said, too, while there is a lot of traffic, and a flip side that a lot of people have said is that because it is when people are buying tickets, if you do it right when the Fringe site opens, it's impressions based, the Fringe website ad, so it's a certain number of impressions. So if it is during a high traffic point, your ad could be out in an hour, or if you buy a low amount of impressions.
True.
So, but that being said, I think that's a great piece of advice, and you should also go to our town hall where we tell you all about how all of that works,
Yeah, do that.
so that you can make sure to optimize your advertising.
I bought a couple Fringe ads and a couple Facebook ads. We actually sold out in less than 2 weeks, all of our shows. And that was because of the Twitter chats, I believe. I'm not sure if you guys are doing the Twitter chats, but I was very heavily on that with the Twitter chat. So have they already started?
Yeah, we've had 2. I've seen you on them. Who else?
I don't know.
Yeah! Woo!
Yeah, highly highly recommend the Twitter chats, and that was a big part of our selling out. And then when tickets were released and I started to see that tickets were selling so quickly, I could say like, hey, we're selling out, and then people would buy them, and I could even cut the cost, and just, that was something I didn't have to think about. But the one thing I will say that I regret more than anything is I did not buy an ad for the book, because I had already sold out. And I was like, well, what do I need an ad for? I regret that. And even if it's a small one, I really think that it would have made a difference just for my soul, but also as a person who looks at that book all the time, as an audience member, again, the empath, but to see that image, those images really, I mean, maybe I'm a visual person, people are auditory, yada, yada, but that is something I really regret. So if you are going to buy an ad, I really, really, really encourage you guys to buy one for the book. Not only is it like just a great memory to have, but people they do see them, and it does make a difference.
Yeah, I definitely, used, we bought Facebook ads, we did Instagram boosts, and yeah, I definitely bought ads on the Fringe site. Yeah, and I agree with what Monica said, like, don't put it up until tickets go on sale. It just doesn't make sense to do it at any other time. Do it when people aren't buying tickets, and or even just like looking for shows to go see. That's really the best time. Also, it definitely means something to know your audience. Like, who would be the people that would be more likely to see my show? What things do they look at? What Facebook pages do they go to? When should I have these ads posted? So like a little bit of research can go a long way in that, especially on the social media side, for sure. That helps a lot. Otherwise, I mean, this year I'll have an ad in the book, so we'll see how what a difference that makes. And yeah, and then I would say even like the ads in the programs help too, like doing the ad swaps with other Fringers. That helps too, because that gets you to an audience that may not necessarily have been looking for your show, that was looking for something else. It's like, oh, this looks interesting. Yeah, I'll go check this out. One thing that a couple of shows did that I participated in is that at their shows, they would have door prizes and giveaways of tickets to other people's shows. So which can be smart. I mean, definitely, not a bad thing to use a comp for. It's like, sure, yeah, give away 4 tickets. Why not? Because then at least, hey, that's 4 people that more likely than not will come and show up to your show that you wouldn't have had before. It's like if I'm a comedy, partner with somebody that's a straight drama.
Yeah.
Why not?
I also really liked at shows, people would say, before the show, you give a little spiel, please turn off your phones, eat your candy, and then, or afterwards. Do we have any other shows here? People would stand up, what's your show, what's your show, what's your show? And you hear a lot of people in the audience going, oh, I want to see that, I want to see that, and it's nice to give your fellow Fringers a little, at your own show.
Yeah, that's a good look.
Yeah, it's a good look.
Burning questions? Yeah.
Regarding not putting your ad up on the site until the tickets go on sale, do you just wait until that day and then buy it that day, or can I do it like a couple of weeks ahead of time and say, okay, put it up on this date?
I'm pretty sure you can do the latter, and you can also turn them on and off.
Oh.
So if you go like you're gonna go buy one, it'll show you all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I did last year. So I would turn mine on at a certain time, then off, and just keep track of how many impressions are being used, and then if I needed to add more or not. So I didn't get the most expensive one at the beginning, I just got the midway one. I was like, oh, okay, this is working, and then just add in, oh, okay, let me add another 2,000 impressions, another 3,000. It's better to do it that way, because then you'll know how well it's working. So you're not just spending money that you don't unnecessarily need to spend.
Just a clarifying question for Natasha. Is there anything you feel like you did specifically in the Twitter chats that was so helpful?
I think it's almost like going to the office hours, excuse me, where you engage another person as opposed to just talking about myself, which is my weak spot, right? So if someone was talking about, they would ask a question. They would say like, what are you doing right now that you wish you were doing more of? And someone would respond, I would engage them and be like, oh, if if you need any help, or, and genuinely, I'm excited to see, that show. I feel like, and just being there, I was always there. I didn't miss one, you know? And people would say, I remember seeing your logo, my little picture of what my image was. I remember seeing that, chatter, I remember. So I was just there, I just showed up. And I feel like that's almost for anything in the world, but I just showed up and I would engage and I would like, and I would retweet. And just being there. Just being there and being seen and answering all the questions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Also, I think it's important to say that your photos on your social media and your cards and your ads and all of your advertisement was exactly the same.
Yeah.
It was these like little teeth
Yeah,
that were the chatter.
The little wind-up teeth.
So it was really easy to see, that's Natasha. Like, I remember like being like, on my phone being like, this play followed me. Oh, it's Natasha, because I saw the teeth. I couldn't even remember the name of the show, but even though it was a part of a program that I was involved in.
Yeah, that little avatar
so
makes such a difference, you know, that little, and that's why I say, do that now, get that out there.
everything had that, yeah.
Is there a minimum number of tickets you're supposed to allot to fellow Fringes?
There is every ticket you saw to a Fringe participant, which like participants are registered when we have buttons, which will come into play in the next workshop, and we'll talk all about buttons and how all that works. But basically, it's $1 off for that, but that's like your stipulation.
I'm sorry, I'm not
You have to give other participants $1 off, and it's automatic on the Fringe site.
And it's automatic. It doesn't even really ask for it.
Yeah.
In regards to the office hours, is there a specific place that they go to, or is it like a series of bars, or like?
Yeah. Every Wednesday, starting on March 27th, and our first one is at, I am blanking. St. Felix. And there's from 7 to 10, and then our second half are from 7 to 11. People tend to stay later if you're like, I'm gonna come at 9 and I don't wanna only stay for an hour, like people tend to stay later than the actual event runs. It's just at different bars. And we have it on our homepage. If you go to the homepage, there's a button to go to that. It's in our blog, and it's also emailed out to everybody, the schedule for that. And we also have a new series called Dining About Fringe. If you are a little bit wary of like, first of all, if your show involves people who are under 21, or if you're just like, I don't want to go to a bar all the time, we're doing this new series where we're kind of having more like coffee shop meetings, and then like a little dining table. We take up a little booth area and eat this and talk there.
When is that?
It's also on the blog. It's Thursday nights. There's like 2 in April, 2 in May. I don't remember the
Yeah,
date.
I remember there was one last year, but there was a blackout on the block.
Oh yes, that was horrible.
Yeah.
We got there. I remember Alex and I got there at like 7. Or like at 6:30 for it to start at 7, and all of a sudden it's like, we were like, oh no, but we still all hung out.
Yeah, so
We still all hung out that whole time.
I remember, I think you all went down to like 3 clubs.
Yeah,
I believe.
or something. And
yeah, everybody went there. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, name
nobody
tags,
ended up being under 21 that day, so we were Yeah.
So for those of you that were able to use Fringe as a launching platform, or you were able to continue during your show, mine's a Christmas show, so I'm doing Christmas in June, but I'm hoping to get picked up or go somewhere with it for Christmas. Do you eventually make money, just so I can tell my husband?
I know. I didn't mean to seem so pessimistic about it. I mean, we almost broke even. It wasn't like we lost a ton of money with the Fringe run, but then afterwards, yeah, we were able to. We went to North Carolina with it, and they paid us to be there, which was really great. And they put us up and everything, and then we ended up doing the Fringe Encores in New York, which was an international Fringe Encores series, which is 2 weeks of each show. I think 4 shows from Hollywood last year, and it's a really cool program. Research it if you get a chance. But it's another Fringe show, so it does cost money to do that sort of. You don't have to pay to be a part of it, but you have to pay to be there and pay your actors and whatever you have to do. But that's around, I think, in the fall of next year. And then following that, fortunately, we won that, so now we're getting produced for a full 6-week run off prep. So we are making money off of our show eventually. Yes. It's a. But also, I'd recommend highly getting producers from around town to come see your show, especially these other Fringe houses, because from my understanding, everybody's looking for something to produce, especially around holiday times, that can bring in that's a marketable show. So I'm sure that if that's your goal, you can definitely get the success of that afterwards. So just
Yeah, I have to say for sure, because just now, my show, in the months that we've been doing it since, we actually the show we're about to do, it's our first full sellout for all of our dates in the venue where we're charging for just monthly show. So it's definitely possible. It's just putting the work in, and Fringe definitely helps with that, kind of giving you the platform to start off with.
Oh, can I just say one thing about that real quick? Yeah, I felt like we were painting a really dire picture of Fringe.
I felt bad about it.
However, I do want to point out, guys, theater doesn't make money.
Yeah.
That's why theaters are nonprofits.
Right.
Yeah.
So even Broadway shows
Yeah.
usually don't make money. So it's not like something special about Fringe. But that doesn't mean they never do. That just means that is why regional theaters are on a nonprofit model, because Center Theater Group is losing money on all of their shows, every single one. And they're making up the rest in donations. So that's why I never worry about fundraising for an investment, because it's I'm just doing what everybody else is doing. But I would think about what your overhead is and then what your run costs are per show, because that's basically, you need your run cost to be low enough over time, the cost per doing each performance, to be low enough that you can start making up the investment on the overhead.
And remember, it's about goals again. It just takes one person in the audience to see you and say, I want her to do that, X, B, C, whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, we got invited to do a college show, for that, and colleges pay a decent amount of money. So, like she said, you just need that one person in your audience that's oh, I want to take this here, I want to bring the show there, and then there you go.
I'm gonna have Matt and then you.
I was just going to tag off Bert. What Bert was talking about with the Fringe Encore series came out of his participation in the Hollywood Encores, and actually Pick a Fringe kind of got Michael Blaha checking the show.
Yeah, get Matt to see your show.
Myself, get all the venues to see your show. And then there are these growing opportunities coming in. And so the extensions and the encores that we talked about are one of the ways. So get out there. All those awards come out, they get sent out in May, and so be aware. Kind of, like Bert said, research and go out and see how it works.
It's for Natasha, actually, because you mentioned specifically when you were doing your play that you donated 10% to the Suicide Hotline. How did that look? Did you contact them?
I did.
Let them know?
Yeah.
How did that work?
Like I said, I was coming back from Guam, and so it was really heavy in my heart. And it was a perfect confluence of time, I guess, where I wrote something very good. Not like I just spoke, but and I just wrote out my thoughts about why this mattered to me, what my play was about, just a one sheet. Remember, people are inundated with stuff all the time, so the more concise you can make it. And presented them with, I'd like them to come and speak. They gave out flyers. They did come speak after a show or two. And it was just really great. Chris Cornell killed himself while we were in production. And, it's hard to think about, but it was just something very pressing on me, and it came out, I guess, right at the right time, and I found the right people to partner with. So I just wrote something that was, in my heart, and made it very concise, and presented them with a great option, and they were like, absolutely, of course we'd like to do that. And then so any of the money that I made, I could have completely lied. I wouldn't do that, but I could have been like, oh, we only made $100, here's the 10%. It wasn't that, but it was very important to me. So yeah, I just reached out. I just knew that that was someone I wanted to partner with, and I also had that ability to use their platform. So they were using their Twitter and their Instagram to also help with the show, say that, I was partnering with them. And then they came and, like I said, spoke. So I highly recommend that if you have that option. Like someone was saying earlier, something about the no, and I have a really good Spanish friend, and in Spain, apparently there's a saying, I don't know how to say it in Spanish, but it's the no is already there. The no is always there if you don't go for the yes, so why not try? And if you don't get a response, you can always try a different outlet. You can try again. People get a lot of emails. I always say send emails on Mondays as opposed to Fridays, because my inbox, by the time I get to Monday, I can't, so send emails on Mondays or Tuesdays. Morning is best when you're trying to find partnerships like that. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
I would very much like to pay my actors, but I don't know realistically how much, and I'd love some input as far as, I know there's everything between gas money and whatever. I'd love some input.
So I want to blanket this, which I forgot to say at the top of this, but we try not to talk exact dollars during these types of things because it really is so different for everybody, but ranges are great.
Or even suggestions, whatever fits. I'm not
Are
trying
you
to
are
make
you an
anyone
actor
comfortable.
first, a producer first? What brings you to Fringe?
I wrote something.
Oh, cool.
Oh, we'll see.
Yes. Congratulations.
I'm
No, that's
introvert
really-
here and staying in my chair, not running to the door. But it's because it's a lot of information. But I respect actors. I love actors. I want to be able to, and really, I respect. I want to pay people for their talent.
Of course. May I quote the equity numbers?
Yeah.
So the 99-seat plan, I'm no longer claim to really know what's going on with it because I haven't been using equity actors for a while. But back in the day, the 99-seat plan was, do you want to?
Well, yeah, let's.
Do you want to?
I'll do my best.
Right.
Monica would be the best for this.
I would just.
If you have equity actors,
Yeah.
then those actors would have to, you'd have to go in under, if you're the 50-seat and under theater, you would do the 50-seat and under plan, which means you don't necessarily have to pay your actors. It is a volunteer position, but if you find your way through your budget and budget that into what you're doing, just like Monica was talking about, make that part of your overhead. Decide and play with the numbers and see what you can do. If you don't have equity actors, you do not have to go equity. You only have to have equity actors to do that. The 99-seat plan now is that if you have 50 seat and over, then you need to pay your equity actors minimum wage for rehearsals and for their performances. And you'll have to get a payroll company, which they are available, and there's information out there about people who do that for like a short-term kind of thing. But that's it in a nutshell.
Just one addition to it. There is a favored nation in the 50-seat showcase, so if you hire a director, you pay that director $200, $300, whatever, then you have to pay the equity actors at least that amount. So you also have a limitation. It's a favored nation, so if you have whoever on the artistic team gets paid the highest, the equity actor has to get paid at least that amount. The other limitations is you can't do more than 16 shows over a 5-week period, which in most cases don't affect a Fringe run. But if you get an extension over those 5 weeks, you may run into some problems with equity.
Yes, we had a show that could not. They were a sold-out musical 2 years ago called Slash. I'll just say it. They were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
They did a great show. It was a musical with guys so and we extended them, and they did have equity actors, and they would not let them do the extension because we had gone over a number of performances. It was the number of performances that we could not do.
I brought this up not so much to go. Thank you. I brought that up mostly because my bottom of what I will pay people to show these days is what the old 99-seat
Right.
numbers were, which I think for like the very, very smallest houses was like $7 a show, and then for the scale I was working in was more like 11 or 13. So at one point, not that long ago, that was kind of perceived as like the low end. I offer that.
I also just think that every single person in Fringe does it really differently, and like start thinking about like the types of, like a big thing that I've learned from doing all these panels with all these different types of panelists is like figure out what show kind of models what you're trying to get after, and then see if you can ask them some of these questions and see how they were able to navigate that. And like if you have an interest in somebody talking to them about what their bare minimum is and what, you know, like it's really going to be about like asking this question to a lot of different people, especially with that because it's such a range.
Yeah, I guess my follow-up to Monica is, I don't have a cast yet, so I don't know if we'll be equity. So would it kind
that's
of be
where you
moving
make
to
your
keep
choice.
50 and, you know, as a.
That's where you make your choices. Yeah.
And most
No.
people won't have their, like, just to be super clear, like, you're getting so much information right now, you're not expected to have your cast. You're not even expected to have your venue right now. A lot of people do, but I mean, we're close. You're not expected to have everything done like that right now, especially like postcards or these types of things. And so like talking about these best practices just helps you prep for that this coming week. I would say if you don't have your venue, you should have it very soon, obviously.
Wait, can I? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I just wanted to add that if you have a venue, and when you do get your venue, go to the person that runs your venue and ask them when you have questions, like if it's a lot of information, and if like, where do I go, where do I ask, and you wanna just talk to somebody, go to your venue. And if they can't answer you, I'm sure that they can send you someone.
Yeah.
You know?
And then just on the actor, at bare minimum, there's a lot of rehearsals and stuff, at least feed them. Yeah, at least feed your actors, even if you can't pay. Just make sure that there's food and drinks.
And not ramen.
I would say, yeah, no. Well, that too. I would say that decide what you want from your show, and if you do really want good actors, if you're going to do a casting website to bring in actors and hold auditions and stuff like that, you should make the most attractive package,
Yeah.
because then you'll get the best actors to come in for you, and you get the situation and stuff like that. But you do have to decide whether it's going to be equity or not before you post on those casting websites, because then that decides and stuff like that. And LA isn't a big equity town. I know there's a lot of equity actors, but there's also a lot that aren't, so you don't necessarily need to go to equity to have the best production. But also I know a lot of good actors that are in equity as well, you know, so you can find ways of dealing around it, but just make sure if you're not going to go equity, then think about how much you want to pay the actors in order to make it an attractive package to them, because it is a lot of time and a lot. I'm an actor first. It's a lot of time to do unpaid theater, and it's a lot of work. And Fringe shows aren't the best showcase for actors, I find, because it's not about bringing in casting directors and stuff like that to see the show. It's more a Fringe community, and there's great theater producers that come to see shows, but as far as like movie producer, you're not going to get Spielberg to see a Fringe show. Well, maybe. I disagree. You guys disagree?
I disagree.
Really?
It's definitely changing.
Really?
We
Yeah.
definitely have people coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think it's just, again, like I said, all of this is such a range.
Yeah.
And like, in regards to equity and
I
things
know,
like
I'm a
that, like,
pessimist, but-
none of us are lawyers. None of us know every single one of these rules. I think what Monica brought up of asking your venue, they work with that a lot. And if they don't have the answer to that question, there will totally be somebody that they know that can give you that either legal advice or more specific equity advice.
And all the equity codes are on their website.
Yeah.
They're really easy to
Yeah.
find on their website.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say with like any of this, again, it's like best practices, all of these things that are said, you can do the exact opposite and probably find your own path, you know? And I'm not saying that you would be the exact opposite, but success, and Fringe of success. I'm saying that there's gonna be a path that's gonna be right for you, and like take all of these best practices and be like, that fits me, that doesn't. And start to do that. We have ran out of time because these people have such a wealth of knowledge, and I wanted to give you a couple of things before you go. How to engage now? Like, because we're like all starting to like run into this like do all this, do this, do this, do that. So right now, what you should be doing is coming to a Fringe event like this. You all win. Make sure you're signed up for our emails. And by signed up, I mean you automatically are, but make sure you're receiving them. Again, info@hollywoodfringe.org. Like, see it, add it to your contacts. If you're still not getting them, email support@hollywoodfringe.org, which is your other, like, huge resource. So, like, if you have these really specific questions or not specific questions, or if you just really have a burning Fringe question, ask support, and I guarantee it's been asked before.
He responds really fast.
Yeah.
I know, because I see it.
Make sure you follow us on all social media and start using the hashtag HFF19. We didn't talk about that today. Surprised we didn't. But that's where a lot of people go through and they are able to see what's going on. So use any social hashtag HFF19.
But beware, there's another one out there as well, because I struggled to find it.
Really?
Yeah, I found something else completely different when I did the hashtag.
HFF19?
There's some dude in the middle of nowhere who's got that hashtag going, and that's right.
Well, maybe he's trying to get involved in the Fringe.
It might be a Fringe show.
Good marketing.
And I think that's it. Office hours start not this next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. So I hope to see you there.